Today's the day we've been waiting for. We've got the information hot off the presses from CalHFA with all of the details on how to register into the portal. We've got the dates of when you're going to be able to register, the process of what it's going to take, and I'm going to walk you through all of it right now. First and foremost, the most important thing is the registration portal is going to open on Wednesday, the 3rd of April, and it's going to be open until 5 p.m. Pacific time on Monday, the 29th of April. So that gives us almost exactly a month, about 3.5 weeks for you to get your information registered into the portal. My recommendation, register right away. If you've already worked with me and you already have your pre-approval letter, you are ready and you need to log in on the 3rd, get yourself registered because there's lots of steps that you're going to have to go through. And I'm explaining to you the steps they've disclosed to us so far. There's going to be more. I am positive there's going to be some hoops to jump through. But you need to get yourself registered as soon as you can. Do not wait until the end. Do not wait until Monday the 29th because you're going to end up missing the deadline and you're going to miss this golden opportunity. I got to tell you, I have talked to so many people this year that have been devastated over the last 12 months since the last Dream for All program came out and the money went away. I had one conversation with a client last week who said they were in contract on a home and they missed it by hours. So as much as we think that, man, this is frustrating and it's a difficult process, the fact of the matter is, once you know that you've got your voucher, you have 90 days. Yes, they've announced it. It's exactly 90 days to find a home, to get an offer accepted on that home, and for me to register your lock into CalHFA's system. So you have a 3-month window and your voucher is going to have an expiration date on it that says you must register by this date. If you do not register by that date, your voucher goes to somebody else. So we've got to make sure that we're following these steps. And there's going to be other tactics I'm going to explain to you on how to get yourself prepared because you don't want to waste any of those 90 days looking for a home and not knowing what market you want to buy in, figuring out what realtor you want to work with. And so let's start with what CalHFA is going to require. And then we're going to figure out from there what things you need to be doing to be prepared. So the best news I actually heard on this memo or saw in this memo was CalHFA finally gave a clear definition of what counties fit into the 9 regions of the state. I want to recap really quickly. The state CalHFA broke it up into 9 regions. We have a good idea. You got the Bay Area region and the Capital region. You got Los Angeles and Orange County and San Diego. But they didn't really define what counties fit into those. And so I've got that information right here, and I'm going to share with you a breakdown of what counties fit into the regions, because each region gets a percentage of the money based on the population of the state that's in that region. For example, Los Angeles has 25% of the state's population. The Bay Area has, I believe, 21% of the state's population. And so 25% of the money goes to Los Angeles. And the money is given based on the county you live in when you register. So if you live in LA County, you have the best chance of getting your voucher accepted, getting your name drawn in the lottery, because the most number of vouchers are going to Los Angeles County. You can call that fair, you can call that unfair, but the fact is 25% of the state's population lives in Los Angeles, which they have defined as Los Angeles County. So specifically, it is only Los Angeles County that is considered Los Angeles. If you're in the Bay Area, you have the second highest number of vouchers. Now, the Bay Area is a bigger, much bigger number of counties. Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin, Napa, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Solano, and Sonoma counties. The Capital Region. So the Capital Region got the biggest share of the money last year relative to the actual population. The Capital Region is El Dorado, Placer, Sacramento, and Yolo counties. The Capital Region isn't going to get anywhere near as much money last year as this year as they got last year. The same holds true for the Central Valley. Now, the Central Valley consists of Fresno, Kern County, Kings County, Madera, Merced, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tulare counties. Those are all considered Central Valley. Those go into one bucket of the number. Everybody in those counties pulls from the same bucket. The Central Coast is Monterey, San Benito, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, and Ventura counties. All of those are considered the Central Coast. Now, I know Santa Cruz was one of the ones that people thought, well, we're part of the Bay Area, but at least not per CalHFA and how they broke down the regions. Inland Empire. So you had a lot of people, I have a lot of clients who live in Los Angeles that are looking to buy in the Inland Empire. And if you live in LA now, you have the best chance of getting your voucher accepted, and you're allowed to go to the Inland Empire, but you have to meet the income limits of the county you're buying in. So your voucher is selected based on the county you live in right now, but your ability to purchase is based on the income limits of the county that you are buying in. So you got to be really, really aware of that fact. So the Inland Empire is Imperial, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. Orange County and San Diego County are really easy, just like Los Angeles, which is the Orange County region is Orange County, the San Diego region is San Diego County. The rest of the state is what they consider rural areas. So all of these states, all of these counties fall into the rural area calculation. And that we're looking at is Alpine, Amador, Butte, Calaveras, Colusa, Del Norte, Glenn County, Humboldt, Inyo, Lake, Lassen, Mariposa, Mendocino, Modoc, Mono, Nevada, Plumas, Shasta Sierra, Siskiyou, Sutter, Tehama, Trinity, Tuolumne, and Yuba counties. Can't believe I got all those straight. Anyway, that's the breakdown. I'll publish this for you so that you can see it, but that was a real big thing for me is the definition of the regions, and they gave us real clarity on that. Now, here's the process and how it's going to roll going forward. What CalHFA is going to do is they're going to open up the portal on April 3rd. You need to log in and need to create an account in the portal. You need to upload the following documents: the pre-approval letter that I gave you, your government issued photo ID. So that's going to be a passport, driver's license, military ID, permanent resident card, visa, or other employment authorization document, excuse me. You've got to give proof of residency. So they're going to want to prove, where do you live right now? So that's going to be your government ID that shows the address, or maybe utility bill, cell phone bill, insurance bill, voter registration, or car registration, because they don't want games being played with you saying, hey, I live in Orange County, but I know my chances in Orange County are a lot lower. Or I live in Riverside County and my chances in Riverside County are extremely lower. So I'm just going to say that I live in Los Angeles County. They're going to want proof of it. They're going to want to see your photo ID or a utility bill or something else to prove that you live there. And then they're going to ask for foster care documentation if applicable. So if you were in the foster care system and you're using that as your way to meet the first generation homebuyer rule, then they're going to ask for a foster care verification letter or court documents. Now, they're going to require you to complete the following certifications. So you're going to have to certify all of these things and attest that they are true and correct. You're going to certify that at least one applicant is a resident of California. I got to tell you, that one kind of jumped off the page for me because I thought it said every applicant had to be a resident of California. Maybe I misunderstood it, but this is clearly what it says right now, is at least one applicant must currently be a resident of California. All applicants must be first-time home buyers. We've all known that. That means you have not lived in a home that was occupied by you or your spouse anytime in the last 3 years. So you're certifying everybody is a first-time home buyer. You are certifying that at least one applicant is a first-generation home buyer. We've talked about this a lot. I've had a lot of people asking me questions about, John, help me understand again the first-generation thing. One person has to meet this criteria, and there's two parts to it. One part has to do with you. The other part has to do with your parents. And so for that one person, they have to personally have not had anything to do with the mortgage anytime in the last 7 years. So you can't have had your name on title. You can't have co-signed for somebody. You can't have had a rental property, nothing, okay? First-time home buyer says only about what home you lived in. First generation says that one person, the same person who meets the personal and the parental rule, that one person cannot have had anything to do with the property as an ownership perspective unless it was a manufactured home in a park. So that's the exception because that's not really considered real estate. So that's the first step, is personal to that one person. The second step is that person's parents. So both parents of that person that you think meets the first generation rule need to either not own a home right now, or if they're deceased, they didn't own a home the day they died. This is a big source of misunderstanding and frustration for people because they're saying, hey, my parents owned a home 2 years ago. Does that mean I'm not qualified? All they care about is, do your parents own a home today? And if they don't own a home today, then you are eligible as a first generation home buyer. Or if they've passed away, did they not own a home the day that they passed away? That's all that they care about. Why do they care about this? Really, the state's made it clear, and this is not Cal HAFA, this is actually the state legislature. They've said, look, there's a lot of people who don't have the legacy, the generational wealth that comes from your parents and grandparents and their parents owning a home, and then they pass away and that comes to you as an inheritance. And I've heard everybody loud and clear. I've had some people say, hey, my parents have a reverse mortgage and they're upside down on the value of their home and I'm not getting anything out of it. The state had to draw the line somewhere. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but don't shoot the messenger. The state has clearly said your parents cannot own a home today, or they cannot have owned a home the day that they passed away. And it is both of your parents. So it's not, well, one of my parents, it's both. Now, the other way around that is if you spend any time in the foster care system. They said, well, look, if you're ever in foster care, then really we're not going to hold you to whether your parents own a home or not. And so you get a get out of jail free card for having been in the foster care system. So they're going to verify that. They're going to have you confirm, these are all the certifications still. They're going to have you certify that you've received the pre-approval letter and that everybody meets the guidelines of the loan. Well, that's my job, but you still have to certify. You have to certify that this is the only application being submitted for your household. That's a big one. I've had a lot of people say, John, I want, my sister and I live together, we're sharing a house, we both want to go buy separate houses. Can we each apply? The state says no. The state says if you live in the same household, and how do they know you live in the same household? Because you're uploading documents showing your current proof of residence. If you live in the same household, they're going to pull the applications and they're going to reject both of you and not allow you to proceed. So you are certifying it's the only application for the household and that all of the information is true and correct under penalty of perjury. Now, the state kind of went a step further and they brought up the F word, not that F word. Get your mind out of the gutter. Fraud. And they said, look, fraudulent applications may be referred to the California Department of Justice for potential criminal prosecution. Aiding and abetting fraud is a felony and could result in criminal liability. Allegations of fraud may also be referred to relevant state licensing authorities. So here's the deal. Don't commit fraud. Like, tell the truth. Don't lie about where you live. Don't play games with it. The state is taking this super, super seriously, and I want to make sure that you don't make the mistake and do something that might seem like it's no big deal, but the state's taking this very, very seriously. Now, the voucher application is going to require you to submit information about your parents. So back to the portal, when you start entering information on April 3rd, they're going to require you to enter your parents' names, their date of birth, if they're deceased, their date of death, and their current address. Okay, so you have to be able to submit all of that information, and then you're going to fill out an application in the pre-registration portal. Once that voucher is submitted, then Cal HAFA is going to use a third party that is going to randomly select applicants within each region that meet the criteria, and they're going to build the main list and they're going to build the wait list. So if we use Los Angeles County as an example, 25% of the money is going to Los Angeles County. So they mentioned maybe 1,700 to 2,000 vouchers total. That means that if we just call it 2,000, Los Angeles County is getting 25% of that, or 500 vouchers are going to Los Angeles County. And they are going to pull 1,000 names from Los Angeles County. They're going to have those 1,000 names vetted. Why 1,000 names, by the way? Because they're trying to build a wait list just as deep as the original list. So they're going to have 1,000 names that they're going to pull for Los Angeles County as an example. And then they're going to turn over that list to the private investigators. And they're going to do an audit process. So I'm going to read what they say here. CalHFA will audit the applications to verify eligibility and to ensure the information submitted in the pre-registration portal is correct. Additional information or documentation to establish the parental relationship may be required. This may include birth certificates, school records, or hospital records. So they're taking this really seriously, and they're going to put the burden on you to give them the additional information. Once they go through that voucher process, you're going to get one of 4 notifications, and they're going to build the list. So the first thing is you're going to get the notification we're all waiting for, which is that you have been selected for a voucher. Woohoo! Congratulations! Time to start shopping for a home. The second potential notification is going to say you've been waitlisted. That's good news in some ways. You're again, the wait list, you don't know if you're number 1 on the wait list or number 500, but you know that the wait list is only as deep as the main list. So not as many people are going to get on the wait list as they might have hoped, which I think is a good thing, because I want people to know that this isn't an option for them, to be able to kind of move on if it's not going to work. And that's the third selection, which is you've not been selected for a voucher. Okay. But here's a fourth thing that you could be put in as a status, and that is additional information needed. That's critical that you're paying attention to your emails. You do not want to miss this notification if they tell you additional information is needed, because you're going to have a limited amount of time to respond to their request for additional information. Now, what are they going to ask for? Who knows? But it could be that they want additional information because they've found that parent that you didn't know about, and they want to be able to prove if that really is your parent or not. And so they need to get more records from you. They need you to dig deeper with hospital records or birth certificates or something else. And so just recognize they could ask for more documentation. And when they ask for it, you got a short, itty bitty, teeny, teeny, tiny window of time that you can actually submit that information to them. Otherwise, they're going to move on. Okay. This entire process, I don't know how long it's going to take. And I'm worried because if they close the portal on the 29th at 5 p.m., then they have to go through the process of figuring out who are the people that they're pulling to do audits on. And then they've got to go through the audit process for everybody. And they have to give time for people to respond when there's additional information requested. Now, how much time are they going to give you? 1 day is unreasonable. 2 weeks is too much, because then it's going to delay everything, because they research you for 2 weeks and they find out that you can't make it. Then they're going to add somebody else to potentially be on the voucher list or on the waiting list. And now they have to research and wait 2 weeks for them. So I don't think it's going to be a big window of time. And you've got to be able to get that information at your fingertips quickly. So you might want to start gathering some of that ahead of time, especially if you don't know who your parents are or where they live, and you're not sure whether they own a home or not. Start doing your own digging, because if they start asking questions and you don't have the supporting documentation to help answer the questions, they're going to move on. And you don't want to miss out on this opportunity when you were right there, you were on the edge, you were ready to get your voucher, and you couldn't do it because you had to order a birth certificate and it takes 2 weeks to get it. Like, you need to be ahead of the game on this stuff. And that's really what I implore you right now, is to make sure that you're getting all of that information ready as quickly as possible. Now, I want to clarify, the voucher is good for 90 days. So you have 90 days to shop for a home and enter into a purchase contract, and for me to reserve your loan in CalHFA's system. All of those things have to happen by the expiration date on the voucher. So there is literally going to be an expiration date and time on the voucher that I have to register your loan by. And you have to have a purchase contract in order to get your loan registered. If you miss that timeline, your voucher is gone. Your voucher goes to somebody on the wait list and they get 90 days. Now let's pause and think about this. If it's going to take them, I think it'll take 3 or 4 weeks for them to get through all of the validation of the people that have been selected. So best case, we're looking at May 20th to maybe June 1st before the first group of 90 get their vouchers. The first group of, not 90, the first group, the people who get their vouchers get their 90 days. So you have June, July, and August to find a home. And if you don't find a home by September 1st, and I'm not giving you September 1st as a deadline, the deadline will be printed on the voucher. But if you don't find a home by theoretically September 1st, it goes to the next person on the list. They have September, October, and November to look for a home. Some people on the wait list aren't going to find a home by that timeline, which means there'll be more people on the wait list that are selected. They're going to keep going down the wait list, which means that third round of wait listers will have December, January, and February to find a home. So if you're on the wait list, you got a shot. I'm not telling you how good your chances are. I think people, by the way, I encouraged Calhaffa. I don't know if they're going to take my advice or not, but I said, you need to number where somebody is on the wait list. Because if I'm number 500 on the wait list, that's basically the same as not being on the wait list at all. Versus if I'm number 2 on the wait list, I got a really good chance that in 90 days, there's going to be at least 2 people out of my entire region that didn't find a home or they didn't qualify anymore. And that's a really important thing to understand. You have to stay eligible. You have to make sure that your credit doesn't fall. I had a client today that I was talking to about doing a loan, and I pulled their credit back in January, so 6 weeks ago. And the credit score was 700. Nothing bad has happened on this person's credit report. They had no late payments, they had no new collection accounts, but they charged up some of their credit cards. Now, they already had pretty high balances, but they had a 700 credit score, and they charged them up even higher. And some of their credit bureau, or some of their creditors, some of their credit card companies reduced their credit limit. And the credit card companies do this because they're getting nervous. They're getting nervous because this guy is charging up balances, and these balances are showing that they're applying for credits. They're charging up their credit cards. They've got a lot of credit cards, and they're all having balances that are going up. Now, there's a good reason why this person's balances needed to go up. They had some expenses. They're going to pay them off in a couple of months, but they put them on a credit card, on multiple credit cards, and it triggered a couple of their credit cards to lower their credit limit, which means their utilization percentage. Utilization percentage is the percentage of your balance compared to your credit limit. As your balance goes up, you get closer to your credit limit. Well, before your balance gets too high, call your bank and ask them to raise your credit limit. That'll help your credit score. Most people think having a high credit limit is bad. The truth is having a high credit limit is good for your credit score. And so because you want to keep that utilization percentage low. So this client, I re-pulled their credit today. Their score fell from 700 to 613 in 6 weeks with nothing that the person did bad. They just charged up more on their credit cards. They had some family issues that needed to happen. They needed to get some stuff paid off or paid for, and it caused their balances. Most of their cards are 90 to 95% of the credit limit. Unfortunately, life happens. Sometimes that happens at the wrong time. So think hard about doing anything with your credit, because if your credit score falls, you don't get to use the voucher. You have to be qualified at the time when we give you the pre-approval and at the time that you actually go into contract of the home. We're going to double check everything. We're going to double check your credit score. We're going to double check the assets. If you've been moving money around, we're going to look at your money and say, wait a second, this deposit was just made last week. And you're going to say, yeah, because I loaned it to my friend. They had some hard times. And I loaned it to my friend because, they're friends. And so I'm going to say, great, then it was a loan. Give me the paper trail of you writing them a check, the loan agreement that you had, and the money they paid you back via check. Well, no, John, we didn't do that. We just handed them 10 grand. And then they gave us back the 10 grand, 2 weeks ago. We deposited the money in the bank. And I can't use that money anymore because it's not seasoned, because I don't have a paper trail of where it came from. Maybe there was a job change. If your job changes and your income goes up too much and you're over the income limit, you don't qualify anymore. Or if your job changes and you lose a job, you don't qualify anymore. I'm saying that, to make sure that if you're qualified, stay qualified. Do the things that you should be doing. All the things you read about online, especially things you hear from me, make sure that you're not doing anything without talking to me first. Because if you get selected for a voucher, it doesn't mean you're going to guarantee to be approved for the loan. But that's good news for the people who are on the wait list. So if you're on the wait list, there's going to be some people that's going to happen to. There's going to be people who are going to say, I don't qualify anymore. I can't. There's going to be some people who say, I don't want to. I changed my mind and I don't want to use the voucher. I know there are people right now who are getting pre-approved that have told me, John, not sure if I love the idea of sharing equity with the state, but you know what, it's a lottery. What's the worst that's going to happen? I win the lottery and I decide not to use it. That's a true statement. But it means that that money was set aside for that person and they're not going to use it. Now, I'd love to say that person then, when they get the voucher, says, okay, I'm going to relinquish my voucher and hopefully Cal HAFA can give that to somebody on the wait list sooner than the 90 days. But either way, at the 90th day, they didn't use their voucher. So that gives you an opportunity if you're on the wait list. But if you're not on the wait list, then we got to look at plan B. Because the truth is, you're watching this video right now. I'm probably 25 minutes into a video. If you stuck with me for 25 minutes, you want to be a homeowner. The only problem is you don't know how to make it happen because interest rates are high, house prices are high, and monthly payments are high. And you're saying, John, this program is the only way for me to be able to become a homeowner. And I get it. And I think that the challenge of becoming a homeowner in today's environment is greater than it's been ever in the history of home ownership, in the history of mortgages and real estate. But guess what? We said the same thing in 2020. We said the same thing in 2012. We said the same thing in 2005. It's always easier to have bought a home sometime in the past. Things are always harder today than what they had been. But the difference is when you become a homeowner, at a certain point, things get easier. I talked to a client a couple of weeks ago that was super frustrated. They said, John, I don't get it. I don't understand why you're telling me I'm going to have a payment of this much money to buy a house that is cheaper than the house my sister lives in right now. I just don't see how that's possible, because how I want to buy a house smaller than what she's buying, and she's spending $5,000 a month. And you're telling me I have to spend more than that to buy a smaller house than what she owns. And I started asking, well, when did she buy her home? And he goes, oh, she bought it 3-4 years ago. And I said, okay, so she probably bought in 2020 to 2021. He says, yeah, that's probably about right. And I said, interest rates were at 3%. Now, the problem back then is you had to have some cash to put in front of the seller, because there weren't enough homes for sale and everybody was trying to buy. And so the only way that you could get an offer accepted is if you got a bunch of cash in your hand. And so I said, did your sister have money? And he says, yeah, she had saved up for a long time and she had a good amount of money for a down payment. And I said, okay. So she bought at a challenging time, but it was an easier time because she had the cash that was necessary to compete in that environment. And my worry is we're heading back into that environment. Interest rates have been volatile. I think they're going to start moving back down. February was not a good month for interest rates, but I think that we're going to see, I'm recording this March, what is today? March 4th, March 5th. I think we're going to see interest rates start to moderate and start moving back down a little bit in this month. So as interest rates start moving down, more people are going to want to buy a home. And if you said, John, I'm going to wait. I didn't get my Dream for All voucher. I didn't get waitlisted. I can't own a home. What we have to start talking about is ways to do house hacking. And you're going to hear me talk more about house hacking going forward. Maybe it's buying a multi-unit property. Did you know that I have a program that can have you put 0 down payment to buy a 4-unit property doing a conventional loan? You got to cover your closing costs or get some help with the seller to cover your closing costs. But you can put 0 down on up to a 4-unit property. Now, why is that house hacking? Because you get to rent out the other 3 houses that are part of the block that you bought, which means that you're not responsible for 100% of the payment. And that payment on that 4-unit property is not 4 times what the payment was going to be on the single family home. So if you need a way to hack your way into becoming a homeowner, I've got options and I'm going to share those with you. Right now, our focus is getting you into Dream for All, but here's the reality. 90% of you are not going to get a voucher accepted. And so the question becomes, what do you do about it? Do you take control of the situation? Do you take ownership of it and say, you know what? Here's my perfect world that I painted. Here's my perfect picture that I put out there that says, this is my dream and I can finally make it happen. It's a single family home in the suburbs, white picket fence with a dog and the turtle in the pond in the backyard. And that's your vision and that's great. But that doesn't need to be your first home. Now, if you get your voucher accepted, that can be your first home. But if you give up and say, fine, I didn't get my voucher accepted, I'm rolling over and playing dead, you've missed one of the best wealth building opportunities of your entire life. It is literally why the state says that we don't want to give this money to people whose parents own a home, because it is a proven statistic. Homeowners have significant more wealth building. They have way more assets at the end of their life than somebody who's a renter. And so the question is, can you change the trajectory of your life? If you are a first-generation home buyer, then it is your obligation to your children to help give them that legacy down the road. It's your opportunity to build that for your future. And the question is, are you going to roll over and play dead if you don't get a voucher accepted? Or are you going to do something about it and allow me to help guide you? Allow me to help show you different options to make this work. And they are not going to be what you want to see. They're not going to be pretty. They're not going to make the dreams come true the way you wanted it to. But guess what? Dreams don't work that way. Okay, dreams are built over hard work, over a long time, over perseverance. Homeownership is no different. Just let me guide you through this process. All right, I'm off my soapbox. I really appreciate you listening. We're pushing a half hour now. Hopefully this has been super, super valuable. Here is the most important thing you need to know. You now have the deadline. You now know exactly what you need to do in order to submit your registration into the portal. You need to start taking action now. If you don't know how to calculate your income, you need to start the application process. That link should be somewhere either down below in the description down below. It might be a QR code floating over my head here. The point is, you need to take action in order to start the application process. You can set up a meeting with me. The truth is, the meeting isn't going to get us very far, because the meeting, I can answer some generic questions, but the only way that I know for sure what my options are is for you to open the kimono, rip it off and show me everything. Show me what your income looks like. Show me what your credit looks like. And the sooner you do that, the more time I have to help fix it, to help clean it up so that you are eligible, because you have until 5 p.m. on Monday, April 29th to make your dream come true. Don't procrastinate. Let's get started immediately. Thanks for listening. Please reach out if you have any questions. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.